Okay, awesome. I'm gonna get my dagger. I brought Molotovs! Let me just finish lighting this match over here. Oh, this is a great time for this murder spell. Alright, I pull out my crossbow. Fantastic. Time for me to get my knife. She seems important. Oh well. Enough talking. Time to murder. I'm XPLovecat, and today we're talking about murder hobos. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what this term means, it basically is a player playing their character going from town to town, destroying everything in their path, including their GM's hopes and dreams, and basically setting things on fire, killing enemies, NPCs, anything that is just pure chaos. And usually the solution to any obstacle is just weapons and death and violence. So sometimes murder hobos can be a detriment to the role-playing game world. Now, I do want to put a very large caveat on this, saying if your whole party is like this and they enjoy it and your GM enjoys it, then go for it. I am not one to judge if you enjoy just going around from town to town destroying things. That's totally cool. But if you have one in your game and you don't know how to maybe remedy the situation and your group is not enjoying it, then this video might be for you. I'm going to go through 6 possible causes for this murder hobo-iness and their solutions. The first and most likely reason why a murder hobo might appear is that there are no consequences for their actions. So in the real world, if you were destroying everything and setting things on fire and killing people, there would be definite consequences. Now, of course, this isn't the real world, and it's not going to play out exactly how it would, but there are some consequences that you can include in your game as a game master. The first being guards coming after them being arrested. Maybe you have some of your NPCs no longer willing to work with these people. They don't want to be associated with that. They now have a reputation when they go from town to town. Maybe there are some merchants that just don't want to do business with them. And if it gets really bad, you can send bounty hunters after the characters. Now, this gets a little bit into the territory of GM versus players, which I don't like that kind of relationship. But it's valid to send different beings in your universe to the players to give them a message of, hey, this isn't okay, and make sure that there are consequences in the world. Maybe you feel like you have really good boundaries and that you have consequences in your world. Maybe it's the second most popular reason for murder hobos, and that is boredom or disengagement from the game. Now, if someone is not enjoying the game, or they're not following the plot line, they don't have enough things that they understand what's going on, then they might just be bored and doing things to liven up the action or really start to become engaged with the game. This could be a matter of how you're running the game versus how your players like to play it. Maybe there have been a ton of social interactions and a ton of role play, but really no combat in the last 5 sessions. So making sure you check in with that balance and making sure you know how your players like to play the game. Now, the number one solution to this is just talking to your players. Are they bored? Are they disengaged? Is there something that we can do together and change up the story? Is it that you're wanting a little bit more combat? Having those conversations is going to remedy that boredom. And the other thing to note here is potentially there's another player that is hogging the spotlight all the time. If you see that happening, it's possible that someone else just wants to feel more involved in the game, and they're doing that through causing this chaos. So GMs, keep your eye on if someone is a spotlight hogger, and if so, have that conversation with them. The third reason for murder hobos is that you might have a new player or a player who's new to the system. So new players to RPGs in general, sometimes they come from a background of video games or a background of no gaming at all. If that's the case, sometimes they might think that the only option is to kill. Maybe they think that there's not really another way that they could get to their goal. So in this case, it's about educating them, giving them the opportunity to learn about different ways that you can approach situations. This can often be done through leading through example, by having your NPCs approach things in different ways. And if you have players at your table who are more experienced, having them do the same. lead by example, and give them some other ways to approach the game. This also goes along with people who might be uncomfortable role-playing. If this is their first time playing, then it might be something that they're a little shy about, and they feel like if they're just fighting someone, that's a lot less roleplay and you just roll dice and stab people. So it's easier and takes off the pressure of that roleplay situation. So the way to remedy that would be giving them the opportunity to not necessarily go full in on role-playing and just describe what their character is doing. Merchant, I would like to buy this. You can say, my player goes up to the merchant and is looking for a dagger to buy. So that can be a slower transition if your player is feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the roleplay situation. That way, they're not tempted to always just stab things. And a final good note on this point is that most of the time players will grow out of this phase if they're new to the game or new to a system. So just getting over that hump of learning the rules and getting familiar with how to play a role-playing game, most of the time that murder hobo-ness kind of goes away. The fourth reason is maybe you have NPCs that always backstab the players. If I'm a player and every time I talk to someone, they either end up being evil, they use information against me, or they backstab us, I'm probably just going to start killing everyone. That is a simple solution to the problem, and from a player perspective, I don't really blame them. But as a game master, this is a great time to look inward and say, am I having varied PCs? Am I having different NPCs that people can interact with and also have different motivations? So there are times when you're going to have NPCs that are really helpful and really approachable, and then you can sprinkle in those that are evil and backstabby, but don't have them every single time because that's just going to train your players to murder hobo their way through everything. And this is also related to kind of setting the tone as the GM. So if your NPCs are always going around stabbing things and trying to murder your PCs, then that is leading by example. So make sure that your NPCs are doing different things and are not always violent themselves. Another way to potentially solve this problem is giving rewards to players when they do things that aren't violent. So instead of just giving XP every time that they kill a monster, they get XP when they have really good role-playing situations or have a really great idea and execute a plan that didn't involve violence. Number 5, maybe the character doesn't have enough backstory or the backstory is evil. If it's the evil route, this is kind of on the GM. You have to make sure that your player is mature enough in their role-playing experience to play an evil character and still have that balance. I wouldn't recommend this to new players, so just make sure as a GM you're kind of keeping tabs on this. But it might be a backstory problem, and if it is, check out this video where I talk about how to make a great character backstory. If your backstory is lacking, you potentially don't have enough to grab onto or enough guidance to know how your character would react in certain situations. In that case, you might be tempted to just murder and set fire to everything. So, the way to solve this is making sure the GM has a little bit of information on each of the characters, balancing out the evil parts a little bit, and making sure there's at least a little bit of a shell for the characters to go off of. Now again, this doesn't have to be a fully fleshed out character, but just having a little bit of guidance is helpful. And number 6, this person just might not be the right fit for your group. I mean, there are some people in the world that just like being not very nice. And so I think in those situations, the best thing to do, if you've tried all of the above solutions and it just doesn't feel like it's working out for your group, is to have a conversation with them and suggest that they move to a different group who might be a better fit for them. Now, these conversations are not easy, but they are really important to make sure that everyone is having fun at the table, which is the most important thing. So there are my top reasons for why you might have a murder hobo in your party. If that's the case, I hope that these solutions will help you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!